I'm not gonna lie, this video was very hard to make, and I'm sure many people will find it very hard to listen to. But the truth is, the Houston Astros are an amazing team, and they are deserved favorites to make the World Series. Yeah, I know. The Asterix cheated from 2017 to possibly 2019 using an intricate sign stealing program in which they used their center field camera to decipher their opponent's pitching signs and signal what type of pitch was coming to their hitters via 1 to 3 bangs on the trash can in the dugout. I know they were also accused of using buzzers to signal pitches, especially when Jose Altuve for some odd reason didn't want his teammates to rip off his shirt after he just hit a walk-off to send Houston to the World Series, and then blamed it on his minuscule new tattoo. I know when they were punished, the MLB handed hefty justice to the owner, management, coach, and even other teams' coaches, but the players who implemented the scheme got off scot-free. But as someone who also harbored intense hatred for the Astros for the past 2 years, and still wants them to fail to this day, I have to come clean. After the 2019 scandal broke, I thought this team would never be able to contend. Yet, after making the ALCS last year, almost coming back from a 3-0 deficit, and making the ALCS once more this year, I have to admit I was wrong. So let's talk about why this team, who are proven cheaters, have still managed to be amazing without their cheating, and have a shot to do what they couldn't do before, win a World Series ring the right way. Real quick, before we start, make sure to hit that red button to subscribe to my channel and ring the bell to stay notified from my latest videos. And if you're enjoying the content, make sure to give this video a like, and feel free to check out my last video I made on the San Francisco Giants being the most unexpected juggernaut ever. And without further ado, let's get started. For those who have been living under a rock since 2019, 2 things. First, welcome, we're in a pandemic. And second, oh how much you've missed, especially if you're a baseball fan. In November 2019, Mike Fiers, a pitcher who played for the 2017 World Champion Astros, broke a bombshell to The Athletic that Houston was using illegal sign stealing methods. The next day, John Boy Media posted videos on YouTube and Twitter sourcing MLB games that were archived on YouTube and showing many instances in which you could hear the loud banging noises that were used to signal the batters what type of pitch was coming. Of course, the immediate reaction to these revelations were widespread and furious. People were rightly upset that a team as full of talent as the Astros would succumb to such Bush League levels of cheating. In a matter of days, Houston went from a model team that had many fans to the most universally hated team in baseball, even surpassing the Yankees. And the MLB didn't help matters during their impending discipline. Yes, they ended up fining the team $5 million, made them forfeit their first and second round picks in 2020 and 2021, and suspended their coach and GM for 1 year. But the players who actually played the games got no punishment. Commissioner Rob Manfred didn't even have the decency to put an asterisk on the championship or vacate the title, even going as far as calling the trophy just a piece of metal. The decision to discipline everyone but the players rubbed a lot of fellow players and fans the wrong way. In the end, the Astros got hit hard, but to some, not hard enough. After the dust had settled from accusations and punishments, the biggest question the team would have to answer is whether or not their rise to contention was based solely off the backs of their cheating. There were many people, myself included, that thought that the Astros were good, but that without an added advantage, they would never be a legit playoff contender again. And to be fair, how could we know? All we had to base off before was a 3-year stretch that was tarnished by cheating. The saddest part about all this is that I used to like the Astros before we found out about everything. After years of tanking and a move from the NL to the AL, Houston found itself building a solid core. Guys like Jose Altuve, George Springer, Carlos Correa, Lance McCullers Jr., and Dallas Keuchel were the perfect foundational pieces, and at the time they were easy guys to root for. After losing the World Series in 2005 and 9 straight playoff-less seasons, Houston finally made it back to the wildcard game in 2015. I rooted for the underdog Astros to beat the Yankees, and in retrospect I regret that. But at the time it was a no-brainer for who to cheer on. A team of scrappy upstart guys like them, or the evil empire. When they continued to build up their team in the coming years, I was still rooting for them. They had the savvy to draft and acquire players like Alex Bregman, Michael Brantley, and Yuli Gurriel. In 2017, I was cheering them on when they beat the Red Sox, and then the Yankees, and then the Dodgers en route to their first championship in franchise history. Even as late as 2019, when they made it back to the biggest stage, I couldn't help but root for them. As a Mets fan, I couldn't stand to see the Nationals win a World Series. But like 2015 and 2017, I regret rooting for them, and now I'm glad that Juan Soto and the Nats won. Because to me, Houston's curtain-peeling heel turn was a big scorn. The Astros seemed like they built up a potential dynasty the right way. Once the truth was revealed though, there was no going back. Like many others, I couldn't wait to see their downfall, and hope that even though they escaped justice from the league, real justice would be served. So the 2020 season will be when we hopefully saw Houston get their comeuppance. Things got off to a rough start for that though, when to replace the ousted AJ Hinch as manager, the Astros hired legendary likable skipper Dusty Baker. Poor Dusty, I always liked you. Now you have to manage the most unlikable team in the league? Unfair. Then, the Astros got doubly lucky as COVID prevented the fans from attending games and heckling them endlessly, and the pandemic shortened the season to only 60 games. In that shortened season, the first results of a team without their nefarious cheating methods were what I thought and hoped they would be. Almost every single core hitting member from 2017 to 2019 regressed at the plate. Bregman, a Silver Slugger and MVP candidate in 2019, hit .289 and had an OPS of .924 over those 3 years. In 2020, his hitting slumped to .242 with an OPS of .801. Correa, a perennial all-star in those 3 years, batted .278 with an OPS of .859. In 2020, he had a .264 average and a .709 OPS. For Gurriel, a batting savant, he batted .296 with an OPS of .819 in those 3 years. In 2020, he batted .232 with an OPS of .658. The worst regression of all though was for Altuve, a perennial MVP candidate and Silver Slugger who had established himself as the best second baseman in the league. From 2017 to 2019, he batted an astonishing .321 with an OPS of .901. In 2020, he cratered all the way down to a .219 average and a .629 OPS. The team as a whole was terrible when compared to previous seasons. In 2019, the Astros were first in team average, on-base percentage, slugging, and OPS, and third in home runs and RBIs. In 2020, they fell to 20th in average, 23rd in on-base percentage, 16th in slugging and OPS, 19th in homers, and 14th in RBIs. That's a huge statistical decline for a team and only 1 year apart. Coincidence? Maybe it was too small of a sample size, and maybe the team and the hitters as a collective would have figured it out over the course of 100 more games. Probably not though, considering that this was all without fans in the stands. In my opinion, it might have been even worse if they were heckled and mentally tormented that season. Regardless, it was not a good look that the year after being exposed for cheating, the hitters fell off a cliff. It was exactly what I and most baseball fans wanted to see, the Astros crashing down to earth in the wake of their reckoning. Once again though, the Astros got lucky, as in 2020 the MLB had an expanded playoffs due to the shortened season. Although they had a 29-31 record, they made the postseason as a second place team in their division. This lovable band of brothers got yet another break, thank the Lord. In all seriousness though, this team was highly average, so no way they'd be able to make any noise in this expanded playoff setting. To start off, Houston was tasked with facing Minnesota in the wildcard series. Let's go Twins! And the Astros made quick work of the Twins, winning 3-1 in Game 1 and 4-1 in Game 2. Oh Minnesota, your 18 straight playoff losses hurt, but especially when the last 2 came at the behest of baseball's most hated team. Okay, well at least the AL West winning A's can handle the Stros. I mean, they won the division by 7 games and had a better lineup and rotation during the season. So let's see, oh no! Astros won the series 3-1? They scored 33 runs in 4 games? How is this possible? Were they banging those cans once more? What is happening? Houston made it back to the ALCS for the 4th year in a row in a twist nobody saw coming. Unlike those other years though, they didn't have a dominant lineup or pitching staff during the regular season. Instead, they had to rely on postseason resurgence to get to where they're at. 4 games from a World Series appearance, and in turn, the baseball world collapsing within itself. Their opponent in the ALCS would be the Rays, who were 20 games over 500 and dominated in every aspect during the 60-game season. And to start the series, it looked like a total mismatch, with the Rays winning the first 3 games. Finally, it looked like whatever black magic Houston was using was coming to an end. But remarkably, the Astros kept on clawing back. First, it was a 4-3 win in Game 4, then a 4-3 win in Game 5, and then a 7-4 win in Game 6. All of a sudden, Houston was 1 win away from becoming the second team in MLB history to come back from a 3-0 deficit. The last one, Red Sox and Yankee fans know all too well. However, Houston's torrid run thankfully came to an end as Tampa Bay won Game 7 4-2. For some reason though, I didn't feel as much satisfaction seeing the Astros eliminated as I thought I would. Don't get me wrong, I did want them to lose as did everyone else. But the way that they almost came back from a 3-0 deficit to a great Rays team after winning 2 other playoff series made me realize something. Maybe this team is still good enough to be a legit contender after all. In those 2020 playoffs, the team had the 2nd highest average and 3rd highest OPS, home run, and RBI totals. Compare that with their regular season totals, and it was becoming clear that their statistical dip was more of an anomaly than a sign of things to come. And I guess that's the frustrating part about this whole situation. The Astros never needed to cheat to win. And make no mistake, they weren't the only baseball team to cheat. but Houston just did it to the nth degree, taking sign stealing farther than anyone else had before. But in my opinion, with that talented hitting core, they didn't need to take it that far, and to me, their run in the 2020 playoffs is proof of that. Therefore, it wasn't a shock to see the 2021 Astros be as dominant as they were. Even with the departure of Springer to the Blue Jays, the hitting core of 2019, including Altuve, Bregman, Correa, Gurriel, and third-year DH Yordan Alvarez, returned to their mashing ways. In a full 162-game season, Gurriel hit very well, hitting for a .319, .462, and .846 batting line, 169 hits and 81 RBIs en route to an AL batting title. Correa did much better as well, hitting for a .279, .485, and .850 line, 155 hits, 26 homers, and 92 RBIs. Bregman rebounded in limited playing time with a line of .270, .422, .777, and 94 hits in only 91 games. And Altuve, who had the biggest dip last year, made the biggest 180, slashing .278, .489, and .839 to go along with 167 hits, 31 homers, and 83 RBIs. Across the board, their lineup rebounded to again being one of the best in the majors. This was reflected in the team hitting stats, in which they were first in average, on-base percentage, and RBIs, second in home runs and slugging, and third in OPS. Those numbers almost exactly align with their 2019 team stats, a year in which they were exonerated from any proof of cheating like they had used in 2017. For this team to be just as potent on offense over a full season as they were before they got caught proved once more that they didn't need to cheat to be good. Maybe they're still cheating now, and if they are, I wouldn't even be surprised. They may not deserve the benefit of the doubt considering what they did, but in this case, I will give it to them. It would be pretty hard for them to continue cheating with the entire baseball world's eyes on their every move. The most likely scenario is that their hitters simply learn to adjust to not having help again after struggling mightily without it in 2020. I mean, these guys are professionals that have been playing the game for their entire lives. It's not like they'd all of a sudden forget how to hit entirely. They were bound to do better than they did last year, and perhaps they finally did figure it out during the postseason prior. So after torching through the regular season, winning 95 games and their division for the fourth time in 5 years, it's safe to say that the Astros are back, and this time I'm confident that they don't have an unfair advantage doing so. Need more proof? Just look at their ALDS win over the White Sox. Even though Chicago pitcher Ryan Tepera accused Houston of cheating again after they took a 2-0 series lead, the Astros won in 4. The funny part about Tepera's assertion is that the Astros scored 15 runs at home and 16 runs on the road. It's not their fault that Game 1 starter Lance Lynn throws primarily fastballs and Houston hits that pitch the best, or that the White Sox supposed vaunted bullpen collapsed in Game 2. In reality, the Astros were just a better team, and they'll have a chance to prove themselves once more in the ALCS, a place they've now been 5 years in a row. And they'll be up against the Red Sox, the team that beat them in 2018. A chance for revenge? As much as you won't want to hear it, I know that's what Houston will have in mind. So in summation, what the Astros did was inexcusable, and I'm not here to extol their virtues or forgive them for cheating, but I am willing to acknowledge that this team is still so freaking good and can very easily win the World Series this year. For their sake, I kinda hope they do win a championship cleanly so that their only win won't be tainted. And while I won't be rooting for them in the ALCS and beyond, now I can at least enjoy the product I'm watching and not feel guilty. I totally understand if we can never look past what Houston did. I probably will never view them in the same light as I once did. But I'll ask you this, if the Astros win the 2021 World Series, will you at least be open to the possibility that this team has always been great? And will you, like me, come to the realization that their cheating was a luxury for them more than a necessity? If you can, it will make it easier to cope with their success. And if they do win it all, baseball would explode with anger, confusion, and a whole bevy of emotions. As a proponent of anarchy, I'm all for it.